In this section we are going to take a closer look at the messages that get sent to our syslog and how our syslog sorts them into separate log files. Let's take a look at the rsyslog-conf, and particularly the rules section in there. Every message sent to syslog has a certain facility, that is the type of message, and a severity, that determines how important the message is. An asterisk in either of the fields separated by a dot means either all facilities if it's before the dot, or all severities if it's after the dot. There's a special severity called none, which means no message of that facility is getting written to the log file. In the first particular example, varlog messages, we can see that all facilities of severity info and above get written to varlog messages, but none of the mail, auth, priv, or cron facility messages. Those are logged into separate log files. Auth priv is logged into varlog secure, mail is logged to varlog maillog, cron is logged to varlog cron. All facility messages with severity emergency or higher are sent to all shells, and all critical messages from the news server are logged into varlog spooler. All the boot messages get logged to varlog bootlog for later review. Now let's take a closer look at the varlog directory. You can see there are always log files that end up with a timestamp minus year, month, date. Those are files created by logrotate. Logrotate takes care that the disk containing varlog does not fill up, so by default it rotates out logs every week, and after 4 weeks they get discarded by default. Depending on the log file, there are different rule sets that determine either faster or slower rotation, or also rotation depending on file size. Now let's take a closer look at a particular log file, varlog messages. The anatomy of a log entry is always the timestamp, then the machine the log has sent, and then the process that sends the message, and the particular message that was recorded. Especially for troubleshooting, it is sometimes quite useful to monitor a log file. Tail-F shows the last 10 entries in a log and keeps on monitoring the log for new messages and shows them as they arrive. Let's open a separate terminal. The logger command sends messages in syslog format to rsyslog. Actually, by default it uses the facility user and the severity notice. And then it expects the particular message. Another severity and facility can be specified by -p. This, for example, would lead to an entry in the bootlog file. Let's take a look at the file we tailed. We can see server 1 root colon, that is the user that sends the message in this case, log entry created, and the bootlog message also appears here, but it also appears in varlog bootlog, as you can see. Now let's take a look at what we did. We took a look at the etc rsyslog.conf file, especially the rules section, where there's determined which message ends up in what particular log file. Then we took a look at the anatomy of an entry in the log files, and we used tailf to monitor a log file, and we used the logger command to add a particular message to a log file.